Howdy folks, it's Sean again, and I have another story to share with you for the day, or this week, whatever. Hopefully, with all this time indoors, you get a chance to share some stories with folks. But this story, I first heard it as a song, actually, from Dave Wilcox back in the mid-90s or so. I was at a camp and found this new music and loved his stuff, and I've read it since in a couple different storybooks and those kind of things online and in books. And it's called The Carpenter Story. And goes like this. So once upon a time, there were two folks who lived next to each other. And they'd been friends for a long, long time. Possibly since childhood. No one really knew. But they were dear friends. And they shared all kinds of things and helped each other out from time to time. And really knew each other well. Well, one day, this stray cat came over and sat on the porch of one of the folks, and they were sitting outside on the porch, and this cat came right up and snuggled up in their lap and was getting a little love, right, as stray cats will do. And so this person took the cat in, right, fed it, came inside, slept inside, hung around the house, caught a few mice. And the other person who lived across the way there had seen the cat over there, and wasn't really jealous necessarily, but when that stray cat wandered across the property and came over to the other person's porch, they decided that cat was theirs. And that was the beginning. So they argued back and forth, and every time they saw each other for the next couple weeks, they would always bring up that cat. Hey, when are you going to get my cat back? It's not your cat, it's my cat. When are you going to leave my cat alone? And back and forth and back and forth. Soon, they stopped talking to each other. And that happened for a day, and 2 days, and a week, 2 weeks, a month. And while they were both missing the other one's company, they were both a little bit stubborn. Not that any of you have ever been stubborn about anything. I know us folk, we don't get that way. But these folks, they were a little stubborn about who the cat belonged to. And of course, neither of them were willing to admit that they were wrong. So one day, the person who currently had the cat was outside, and someone showed up on their front stoop and said that they were looking for work. They were traveling and they were looking for some work. And the person said, I'm a carpenter. A pretty good one, if I must say so myself. And if you have any spare jobs around that might need a little repair here and there, I'd be more than happy to help. And the person said, hey, you know what? I do have a project for you. See over there? That's my neighbor. It's my neighbor. And see how there's that space right between our two properties over there? Yeah, that little ditch that's been dug. Yeah, they took their tractor and they made that ditch down there. And now the water kind of runs down there, and they call it the creek. Or the creek, depending where you're from. And that's our property line, and you know what? I want to finish the job. They want to be that way, I want to finish that job. I'd like you to build me a fence. Right down the property line, right down the middle, right down there. In fact, I don't even want to see that person anymore over there. Can you do that for me? And the carpenter said, sure, I can build a fence, but I'll need more wood than what you have over there in your shed. So you might have to go to town and get that for me. So the person said, all right, I'll go get my truck and I'll head into town. So they went in, and the carpenter got to work. A couple hours later, because you know how it is when you go to the hardware store, sometimes you meet some friends, you run into this, then you have to go do an errand, and pretty soon it was 3-4 hours later in the day. That person came back and they drove into their property and they pulled up with this truck full of wood and looked over, and the carpenter was all finishing up and putting their tools away, and the guy got out of the truck, and the person got out of the truck and went over there and looked, and where there was supposed to be a fence, there was a bridge going from one side of the property, one property to the other property, over that little creek. And just as that person got out and was heading over to the carpenter, the one person, about to say, what did you do? That's not a fence, that's a bridge. The neighbor across the way was walking across that bridge with a goofy smile on their face, hand outstretched, walked right up to the other person, another friend, the old friend, and said, gosh darn, I'm impressed by this gesture. I didn't think either of us had it in us, but I miss you being my friend. And the person who had the fence built, the bridge, in their head said, "Oh gosh, I knew that was your cat. I was just being stubborn." And they shook hands, and just then they both turned towards the carpenter, and the carpenter said, "Well, I'll be going now." And then, wait, can you just off? No, I'm needed elsewhere. I've got to move on, and you all take care of yourselves. And off they walked. So my question, and I've always loved that story, my question is, what can you do right now, or what can we do in our communities to build bridges? I think we have enough fences. I think we do. And that's not a political statement. I think we have had enough metaphorical fences that we've put up around ourselves and our communities, and the us and them game, and it's easy to play. But what can you do today, tomorrow, and the next week to build some bridges, right? Maybe mend some bridges, maybe take down some fences, and see what happens, strong back, brave front. So hope you're all doing well. Take care. See you on the trail somewhere.